Welcome, Agile friends. My name is Vasco, and I'm here to host the keynote for this year's Agile Online Summit with our amazing speakers, Oliver-Krueger and Michael Dougherty. Hi, gentlemen. Welcome to the summit.
Hey, Vasco. Good to be here. Excited.
Even more excited to be here.
So Pete and Michael just finished writing a book, which you can see in behind them on the background image. The book is called Shift, From Product to People. And we're going to talk about that people-centric perspective of product, software development, and of course, Agile as well. But first, let me tell you that there are also some awesome other sessions at Agile Online Summit that touch on people-centric aspects. There will be a whole track about that people-centric perspective. In fact, Pete and Michael will be hosting that track. But we also have, for example, Anita Kalmane-Booth with a session, a special session on neurodiversity in software teams. So make sure you check that out. You can find all the videos at agileonlinesummit.com. But for now, it's time to focus on shifting from product to people with Pete and Michael. So let's start first by giving our viewers a sneak peek at the book. You chose a very specific format for telling this story. Tell us a little bit more about that format and why you chose it, because, I mean, after all, this is a learning book for all Agilists out there.
Yeah, we decided to do something a little bit different because both Pete and I are well read. We've gone through dozens, if not hundreds of books, Agile books out there, and a lot of them are how-to guides. And when Pete and I originally talked about this idea, it was over 4.5 years ago, just before COVID. One of the things that Pete brought up is, wouldn't it be cool to write this in a third person past tense and then change the perspective each chapter to a different person, like books such as the Game of Thrones series or The Expanse, since we are fantasy and sci-fi nerds. And I went, well, tell me more. And tell me more went to, let's keep going to, let's get this book going. And that made it where we realized it was real important for us to have it in a way that'd be engaging to the reader. And we find this format super engaging.
Yeah, there's a lot to helping Agile come about in a company that can't be done with just one person. And that's one of the things that we sort of see is like there's a textbook about how to do things with the product owners. And there's textbooks about how to do this in Scrum Masters, or textbooks about how to do this for the technical folks. And it takes all kinds. And it's all about, like we say, the people and the collaboration that's involved in doing the Agile things. And so it just sort of started to feel natural. And when I was starting to work with Michael on this, I was going through some of the Expanse novels, and every chapter changed perspective. And I was like, we should do that with this book. We should totally change, like every chapter, tell the story from a different point of view, so we can start to see what it's like for the executive versus what it's like for the product manager versus what it's like for a Scrum Master or a team member. And so that's how we kind of got into the idea of bringing more characters into the story.
I really love the changing of perspective exactly because of that, by the way, because this is one, perhaps even the only Agile book that is meant as a learning tool, right? Like for us to learn how to do certain things, and you give the example in the book that also uses narrative to contextualize how those things might be perceived. I remember some of the discussions or conflicts, I guess we could call it, between the data person who wasn't getting any love from the rest of the team, and then how his perspective was totally different from the other people's perspective, like Naomi, the product manager, and how that conflict evolved for me as a reader from the perspective of, hey, they're just wanting to do the same thing. They just can't seem to talk to each other, right?
Yeah, we have several of those in there. We actually have 2 chapters in there that one chapter ends, and then we back up and run the next chapter it. starting from the same point, but from the other person's point of view on the other side of the argument, just because we found that it was so different. And we really tried to focus on writing each chapter and each character as a different type of personality that is based on real world people, that allows us to really capture the diversity that's there inside of any working space. And the story that you give is a good example of that. So we got two characters. One is Roy.
No spoilers, by the way. No spoilers.
Okay, yeah, I won't give any spoilers. One is named Roy and the other is named Naomi. And they get into a battle, and we show in the story that, you know, a little bit about what Roy's point of view is, through the proxy of the coach, you know, who's talking about how Roy is seeing the world a bit. And then we also get to see it from Naomi's point of view, and how she sees the same arguments. And they are all right